Okay, hello. Mehmet, you are here. Welcome. Nice to see you. And we've got Dave from Kind, back with us. Because basically, yes, nice to see you. Joaquin, hello. And hello. This is wonderful. This is great. We've got some good people already. Yeah. So we were doing something here. We were building a kind integration for Nuxt, and basically we got sort of so far only to realize that we desperately needed it to be async. Have you seen the Teletubby async meme?
No. Show me.
Let me see if I can find it. It's. Let me see. This is the problem with memes. Like, yes, there we go. This is the one. So I want you to appreciate this image. If I can get it on the screen. This is basically what happened. So the kind API was a nice synchronous function, but we needed an async function, and so basically we had to convert every a ridiculous amount of code. And honestly, I don't know why I did it, other than I'm very focused on finishing something I start. So basically, let's see. We had an SDK, this one I think, which for some reason I haven't starred, but I am there in the contributors list. So probably this was in fact the pull request, and hopefully we'll have this migrate code base to async functions. That this happened. There was basically a lot of async and promise being inserted over and over and over and over again for how many lines of code? Okay, it's not as much as I thought. 413 lines of code. So everybody, if you want to see it, this happened, and that was over a month ago, and I haven't done anything yet. So I feel really bad about that. So I apologize, Dave. So let's make this happen. Let's figure out what we need to do to finish things up. So we have got the module that we started, and let's see, pretty basic. I think we were still in the playground setting things up here. Let's see. Okay, so we had a session manager. We had an API that we were using from Kind here, the TypeScript SDK. So I think we basically just need to upgrade it and get going. But actually, I've been really rude. How are you, Dave? You just I've just gone straight into let's talk about async code. But yes, what have things been like for you?
Well, we did have a little catch up ahead of time, so it's not as rude as it appears. But yes, doing very well. Excited for this, and we did want to make it async, so it kind of saved us a bunch of work. So it works for us.
Let's hope so. So if you haven't used that Taze is amazing. It's basically by Anthony Fu, and it just very, very quickly is a way of upgrading everything in your dependency tree. So it just writes to your package.json, and then you can reinstall stuff. So hopefully that's pulled us, major version I expect. And we'll just prepare our module. We now have a new build command for a module, so we just add that. And okay, right. So let's get going with our playground, and hopefully we're not going to have so many. Do I need to move you, Dave, so people can see my code? Okay, Dave, I have moved you to the upper corner. So from that exalted position, you can now oversee everything in the project. Okay, so we've got our project running, and let me see if I can figure out how this thing worked. Okay, so we had a login, and what happened when we hit it? We have some kind of error, which is what we expect, because we haven't updated any of the code for the new thing. Okay, so we have got our kind util, And oh, Dave, I'm so sorry. I'm clearly needing to okay. We have a session manager. Is that something I can import from Kind?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's try that then. Excellent. So is that actually working for me? Come on, TypeScript. Okay, great. We have our interface coming in, and the problem is here, it needs to be a, interesting.
So these are all going to need to be async now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think this update session utility is async, so it's returning a promise. But it's returning a but I guess they're void, right? Okay, so that's the type issue. Oops. Well, so we basically just need to await these. That should be good. Cool. That seems fine, right? So we have our session manager, and
Yep.
Qubit, nice to see you. Okay, now this is, okay, API login is giving me an invalid URL, and that's almost certainly because we create kind client. Okay, here's another TypeScript thing. So can I just drop that? Cool. So now we actually have a login. We're passing it our session manager. Is this still right? So we're getting a login URL.
Mm-hmm.
And it's telling me it's an invalid, something is erroring out. This is an invalid URL, and that's coming from kind, create authorization URL. Probably because, let's see, what's the session?
Yeah, that session manager potentially needs to be
I bet it's that we need to create these URLs. So I think it's probably just the fact that this is a fresh clone of the project. So we basically need to have like nuxt-kinde, auth domain, client ID, client secret, redirect URL, and logout redirect URL. And I probably need to go into my account and figure out what those should be. So let's see, kind, and sign in. Okay, so Wartigen, can you use Vue compat with nuxt3 to use Vue 2 compatible plugins? I would personally be a bit wary of doing that with the entirety of Bootstrap Vue 2 because it's a big project and I don't know exactly what it's using. It's possible you might be able to do it, but I suspect it would be a big effort. So I don't know if it is workable, but maybe it will be. Nuxt is a required prefix if you want to support runtime configuration of your code. So here we have in our Nuxt config, we have set some runtime config with some variables that we're going to be able to need to configure kind. And so we want to be able to do this. So in dev mode, we can have one set of variables, I'm guessing, Dave. And then in production, we can set these to different variables, and we don't have to rebuild the app. You know, like if you're using Docker, you wouldn't have to rebuild the app. It would just work. And so Nuxt requires that any of those variables have a Nuxt prefix to avoid pulling in unrelated variables from your system and, you know, clobbering you. And that is true. For example, Windows has a public variable, which would otherwise overwrite the entire nuxt public runtime config. But in this case, we basically just need, I think, to pull in. Okay, we have our organization, and I think I pull it in from the settings. And
so you want applications, and then on the left-hand side,
yeah,
or on the home page, it's there as well.
Okay, we've got our front-end app.
So it's going to be is server rendered, right? So you're going to want the back-end one.
Okay. Okay, so we've got, let's see, we have our domain, client ID, client secret, nobody look, redirect URL. Wait a second, that's a callback URL. So we probably want a redirect URL will be something like, actually it is callback, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what we set it as, yeah.
And logout redirect URL, we haven't gotten to that yet, but we can update that. And so that actually should now, I think that was probably the issue with the login page before. Amazing. Okay, so this, I think this actually happened before. I think we got to this page. But if I...
Yeah, I think it was like where it fell over, wasn't it?
Create an account. Although I don't have an account created, so this must be further than I got before. So I've just got, hopefully, an email, which I have got. Okay, here's my code. Okay. This feels optimistic. Okay, let's see what happened. So we basically hit the our callback, and we're handling the redirect. We have a request URL, but it's saying client authentication failed. Do I need to do anything else?
When it comes, so this is your callback.
I wonder if update session should update the header. If I check my my headers here for this request, we should see that I've got a cookie, a kind cookie here, which has got a fair amount of stuff in it. So what might be the issue?
So we've got the session manager, we've got the URL.
Is PKCE the right one to be using here?
Possibly you could go with the grant type of auth. I think it's auth code. Or, if you replace the authorization code one.
Hey Reaper, nice to see you. Okay, so something like this. And will that just then work if I have to restart the login flow, I guess.
Yeah, because your state parameter for that session won't match anymore.
Okay, that worked. So I don't know why the PKCE didn't. And Sean, nice to see you. So I'm pretty sure we're just logged in. But let's we don't have any way of knowing that yet. But I think we are. So we have our session manager. How would I detect if I'm logged in? I need to call the session manager, or is there an actual util that I can use from kind client?
Yeah, is authenticated.
Yeah, is authenticated, and I also have a get user. Okay, so that's also going to have to take the session manager, and okay, that's cool. So what we'll do, we'll do this in our middleware as well, I guess. We could say, okay, const session manager, and we are going to just is authenticate logged in, we'll say. And is that an async? Yes, it is because of Teletubby. Okay, so that should at least tell us whether we're logged in. We might also, we're going to ignore the issue about performance. Let's just get our user as well. So we have like everything, and this is obviously, we can at least avoid the waterfall here. Although I wouldn't be surprised if there's some caching going on. I see.
Context in nuxt land, do you then get access to that context throughout the application?
This context will be accessible throughout the server-side app, and we can actually we'll just declare h3. We can actually declare it and say that kind might exist, and it will have a session manager and also logged in and user, which would be user type. Okay. So we can only access this on the server. So in our app here, we would be able to do something like this. So we could do something like auth state, and we're going to create a variable that will have its content moved from the server to the client, so we can access it on both sides, and we can just check if we are on the server, and if we are, fill it up. So say auth state dot value is use request event dot context kind, and so that these are but this is a module, and so we have some extra requirements for modules, which are specifically that we don't support auto import for them, to improve performance at runtime. But that has an effect on if you're developing modules. So we can do something like this to pull in the state and the event, and hopefully that's h3 event context. I just declared on the wrong thing. Event context.
Got a slight typo on 38, I think. You need an E on the end of kind. I've lost which file you're at. Yeah.
That is great. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully, okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Sean. You're more than welcome to come and steal the keyboard. Okay, so let's just load this page. Cannot get user details, no authentication credential found. That's interesting. Is there something we need to do to persist the login? So here on our callback, we're handling the redirect.
Shouldn't have to. Session manager should
handle that. So we've got our session manager and our logged in and user. Let's just try the logged in state. Cannot stringify a function. Cool, this is fun. Okay, so is authenticated. Just say, this is we obviously can't stringify session manager, so let's just not do that. We want the logged in state. That's what we want to stringify, and we need to say whether we're logged in or not. So we're going to say auth state and stick it in a pre. Okay, so it's saying we're not logged in. Let's log in. Interesting, it's still saying we're not logged in. So why would that be? So we have got, because the callback is clearly happening, we have a handle redirect. It's not throwing any kind of error. Let's just check at this point if we're logged in. And this is our session manager. Okay. And that will only work on our callback. And it's saying we are logged in at that point, but then on refresh, on redirect even, we're not. So I wonder if there's something, a cookie that should be set that's not being set. And it might be that we just need to add another method, do you think, to the session manager?
So what we got? We've got set, get, move, destroy.
Yep, so there's 4.
That looks pretty comprehensive.
I think it does seem to be.
The get session item also need to be async or no?
Well, it should. Okay, let's see if that makes a difference.
Or
I guess it's marked as awaitable, which should mean that it's okay if it's not async. I would have thought, but okay. So it's saying we're not logged in here. I think actually, I think the. It's very strange.
Does 18 need to be awaited as well, or you reckon it's already awaitable?
Oh, it shouldn't make a difference. It doesn't need to be awaited. It is just that it's already been fetched from here. Right. So if we want, we could actually get it fresh down here. Maybe that is the difference. Can try that. Tina, nice to see you. Okay. So log in. And again, we are logged in at that point, but it's not persisting. So it's setting a session item. So let's just log it out and see what is being set in this callback state. Okay, so we have this AC state key. Okay, cool. There's lots of stuff that's being set. And we're authenticated here. Why would it think we're not authenticated? What if I just try that? What if I try that? And in app, what if instead we set the user? Cannot get user details, no authentication credential found. Okay, so what is it? What is it trying to find? I'm guessing maybe I'm storing it on the wrong thing. So let's just check. That. So refreshing. Okay, it's looking for access token. And we don't have an access token. Instead, we have a state key. And I don't think the access token is being set at all.
So one of the things we found with, because of the amount that we're sending ID token, access token, and everything else, was that we ran into a few limits with cookie sizing. So we found we could, if we store some in memory and then maybe just the refresh token itself in storage.
Well, I guess the point is that so we when we log in, so I'm logging every access to both set anything on session or access it. So when I log in, we can see what is set. So this is not going to work for the moment, but so we can see what is set. We are setting. Sorry, we're logging the set. And we'll log getting. Okay. So homepage, we should clear this and log in. And we should say we're setting the, okay, there's a lot going on. Setting the state key, and we're looking for the state key, which is fine. We're setting a refresh token. We're setting an access. Okay, we are setting an access token and an ID token. And an access token payload, ID token payload, and a user. And everything is there in the session. Interesting. So you think it's a cookie size, but I don't think this is too big. I think this should be fine. So the question is why... Okay, we have a set cookie here, which is quite a large cookie. And our cookie here, you're quite right, is a lot smaller. But we're not getting any errors. Okay, this is looking to me like an issue with Nuxt. Or Nitro specifically, because we are getting, oh, I wonder if there's an issue with setting cookie on a redirect. Basically, why is this not set? HTTP only is fine. Is it possible that okay, so you're not meant to set cookies on redirects. So then what are we meant to do here? So we have a handle redirect. We are sending a redirect. Is there another way we can solve this, do you think?
That's where I would have expected it to be set, but let's...
So Tina, what we are doing is we are finishing off, I say we're finishing off. I wouldn't be too optimistic. But we're implementing a next module for kind, which is really at the moment more of a Nitro integration for it. So figuring out how we can get everything to be pretty seamless in terms of a good developer experience. And what you're doing, I'm really sorry. There is there an option to add plugins by view compat? Possibly. If you can get me a stack blitz, I can have a look for you, by the way. But you can do a lot of things here and here. So in nuxt-config, there is a view option where you can pass things to like the view compiler. So any options that you need to pass to it when you're setting it up, you can do that. There's also a runtime option. Okay, Sean is saying actually you can. And actually, to be honest, Dave is probably pretty good at this as well. Okay, but still,
that's where I would expect it to be set when it comes back on. I'm just looking at the Express implementation I was playing with, and that's where it would be.
So, but the thing here is that is so strange to me, is that when we do this, okay, maybe I need to pull in more than just the document. Okay, so what we're doing is we're hitting a callback and we're coming back to localhost. And so the cookie, this is the thing, the cookie is being set literally to a really long cookie, which has all the extra info that we need. This is unrelated. This is a kind itself, I think. Yeah. And this is the login. And then the cookie that we send is actually not this cookie. As in, this doesn't really look like a Nitro issue because Nitro is setting the cookie. It is sending a set cookie header, and it's setting kind. And then we are sending back a different cookie. Or maybe, is it possible this is just being... It is literally sending a totally different cookie here. Okay, I'm going to clear my cookies. I'm going to...
Let me flick you over what I was doing for the Express one, and then we can see if there's any crossover or anything that you could see that I was doing differently.
The cookie is secure. Thank you for spotting that. That was... okay, so it looks like at the end of this cookie, we have HTTP only secure. Is that what you're spotting? But we're on localhost. So... But that's not normally an issue. Well, I mean, we can fire this up with HTTPs and just quickly check. But I mean, you can see that the cookie is being read and set for the rest of the rest of things. So I mean, we have a set cookie header here, which is secure, and that's fine. I don't see why that would make a difference unless it's somehow related to the redirect behavior. Oh, and this also needs to be updated to redirect. Oh, no. I was wondering if it might have something to do with... No, that wouldn't. And we all need to update that in kind as well, I suspect. Oh, it's still sending us to HTTP.
I've just sent you a couple of code samples from the Express one that's using iron session, just to see if you might spot some differences there between how we're trying to do things.
Okay, let's have a look. So interesting. Yeah, we could try that. I think. Okay, so basically iron session, which I think you're using in Express. I'll just paste these in so other people can see them. So we have this example, and then this one as a session manager. And so basically this is... Oh, I see. So you're basically deliberately choosing only to keep those too in the actual session.
That was because we did run into some limits with iron session. I don't, which, yeah, then I was thinking, well, actually, possibly we can just keep the rest in memory, store the refresh token, which doesn't have much data in it, and then use that if there is a full page refresh to get the rest of the data back.
Yeah. For some reason, it's still sending me to HTTP. Maybe I need to, if I save this, just restart. So, okay, so the two things that we're exploring are, one, whether actually the secure cookie is an issue. And then the other is whether maybe we could reduce what we're storing. And that should be pretty easy to test and implement. Okay, so this has in fact redirected us. And it has exhibited the same behavior where we have a long cookie, which is not persisted. So I don't think we can say this is an issue with the fact that it's over HTTPS. But what we can do is implement this pretty straightforwardly. So if we create our session manager and we have our keys and a memory session, and we basically do we do something like this. We'll improve this down the line, but right now we just need to check. Okay, that should now not persist anything that is not in that list, I think. So we should be able to log in, and it's looking a lot better. Okay, so we now, if we go into our app and we were to display our user, we go back into our session manager, and in this case we'll just keep logged in instead. And we will set session manager to null. Okay. It still says we're not logged in. And hey, need more wood. Good to see you. Okay. That's crazy. It's getting the access token, but there isn't. There's only a refresh token. Oh, that's because we need to set access token in our list. Cool. Let's try that one more time. Log in. There we go. Okay, so it's working fine now, and that memory is clearly the issue. But I would say we're not getting any errors even in DevTools. Like I would expect if the browser is not going to set a cookie because it is too big, it should log some kind of warning, as opposed to just not
Following it.
not exactly. But that is interesting. That's interesting. And I think we need to we'll need to re-implement our session manager here to make it a little bit better. Like we don't need to get the session if it's a memory token, for example. And I think we should now also be able to see the user. Why is that not working? Okay. We should have a user. Interesting. I wonder if get user is assuming that there is a user defined on the session. And maybe we need to do something like log in.
About get user, try get user profile, because I'm not sure if get user might be under API.
Yeah, okay, it's pulling the user profile. I think probably get user is set in the session when you do some other action, and it's just pulling it. It's not actually fetching it fresh. Because previously we did have this data, I think.
Yeah,
maybe.
we did.
So if we did something like that's interesting. Now it's coming in. What is that? It's now showing up. So if I comment that out and refresh, nothing exists. But if I comment that in, then both of them have data. And I bet you if I swap them around, yeah. So basically it looks like you get user profile has a side effect which fills the user.
Oh, I see. Okay, yep, fix that.
Okay, so let's think about DX. So we've sort of got this set up in that we have a session manager, which we can tidy up a bit. How would we want people to be able to guard themselves in an app? So they're going to want to have server-side middleware. You can say logged in, people can access this page. They're going to want to know if they're logged in, and obviously they're going to want to have access to some information about the user. And I guess they might want to do stuff at runtime as well. So some of it we can, rather than have in a like in the session itself, we can include in the payload, I guess. So in other words, it's not going to be in a cookie. It's just going to be in plain text in the HTML in a JSON object that we can access later on. So I think if I were to create a little to-do of what we want, I would say, and help me here because you're thinking about this all the time. So the DX that we want is we want to be able to have middleware to guard routes, sort of server and client side SPA navigation. We're going to want to have access to some predefined data, such as logged in state, that being preeminent. But we might want more if it's not going to have a performance cost, right? If it's not going to hurt things particularly.
Are you including API routes in that first one as well?
That's yes. So they'll yes, but there'll be a different thing. So the so Nuxt middleware by default, something that you're going to put in a. So normally what you would do is you might have, say, I'll move this into a page. So you might have a page which is index, another page which is login, and so on. And so our login page, we want this to be only accessible to if you are logged out, right? So something like this. And so that should mean that you're not able to reach this page if you are logged in. And so already you shouldn't be able to get here. So that would be, this is something that you can easily implement in Nuxt with something called the middleware directory, and you could have like auth logged in. And we would just be able to sort of define whether or not you're logged in or not. So you would basically say something like use const, and then if nuxt app, right. so at this point we could easily implement this for the server, but it would be more complicated if it's on the client side, which is why we're asking the question. So in this case, if we just return false, if we say you can't access it, and we have, say, a link, yeah, and we want to click that, it's not going to let us go there because we are saying false. Don't come here. So we could insert some logic that actually depends on whether you're logged in or not. And we'll add a log out page as well that is only accessible if you are logged in. And we'll add a log out. And so we would do, oops. So if you're logged out, logged in. So logged in should be the logout middleware. There we go. That's better. That's more correct. So we should now be able to access both. So that should work. It's fine. This should not work because it's not allowed. So we need to implement that kind of middleware. And Milas, hello, good to see you. So we have our to-do then, we have this middleware to guard routes, server and client side. For the server side, I think it's less that we have middleware and more that the user just needs to be able to access the context. Okay, but we want to be able to do this on client side as well. And ideally, I guess logging in is always going to involve a redirect. So we can always rely on the server setting the state. We don't have to have a separate client side state for us. What else would you say we need for a good experience here, Dave?
Depends on how deep you want to get into it. So we do supply like roles, permissions, feature flags, all that kind of stuff as well. But I guess you could do that through the context potentially, depending on how you wanted to split it up. Then I think the main one's making sure that your page is protected on the front end, routes on the back end, any API calls that you're going to want to make.
Okay. Right, and then we'll simplify it down into a module. So what we've got is the session manager, which this is going to be part of our final implementation. And we want to have a context which is as minimal as possible so that, because this is going to run on every request, And so we don't want to be doing these on every request to the server. And so we only want to do a minimum required for those requests. So probably we need to know we only want a session manager and whether the user is logged in or not, probably. Does that make sense as a starting point? And then we can expose getters within the server routes for more information, or they can just directly hit the client. So we could do something like, does everything of kind client require a session manager? Does every...
Yeah, so we store quite a lot in the token itself. So, and that, I guess, in turn is being stored in the cookie.
So what I'm wanting to know maybe is it possible, just for DX, for users not to have to pass around the session manager? So ideally what we would want to do is something like this. We'd want for key of session manager, kind client, but I mean, I think this is something that maybe the API should expose as something like a create session client, where everything is like there's a session manager instance that's bound to the client, so you don't have to be passing it around. Maybe, but I mean, we could do this as well. So event context kind key is kind client key bind like that, and then we then give this the type of key in, the type of client. Let's try this. Oh, I see. It depends on the particular kind of client. The cat has come to. We would want to do something, I think, like this. Oh, it's possible it's not exposed. Where's this client coming from? No, it's not exposed. That's a shame. These are internal.
We can definitely update it to expose those. It's going to make it.
Well, so I mean, you see what I'm trying to do, right? What I want to be able to do is say. Actually, I can just directly do this. This is fine. So we are using which kind? An AC or a? We're using a.
Using the auth code.
Yeah. And what is the CCC client? Like which one is it? So it's an authorization code.
The third type is client credentials, is what CC stands for. So that's for calling our management API for things like spinning up environments or grabbing lists of users. There's anything that you can do within the admin UI, being able to do that via API. Mm-hmm. So typically you would use a client credentials backend flow and have a separate access token that has nothing to do with the user. It's more about your kind of business's access to be able to manage your app.
Okay, so what we have is an AC client, but basically what we're going to do is sort of key in AC client it's going to be AC client, what? Key of. AC client key, something like, this is not going to work with any more. And this is going to need to be something like, how do I slice it? Yes, you are right, Dosper, that's exactly right. So I want, let's see if Copilot can help me. Slice args new function only takes args 1 and following. Thank you for all the comments. I want the actual code. This is terrible. Okay, so basically we want to be able to pull out the parameters. Okay, interface slice t extends array any. And basically this should be, or type, and this should basically be B. Right. Cool. So we want to slice them. Like that. And then we want to just confirm that we can use them somewhere. So we would do something like oh no, we would use kind client. So yeah, so great. These are now all correct and they don't require a session manager to be passed into them. So if I did something like get user, let's see if that's going to work for us. Oh, it can't stringify a function, of course. You shouldn't do that. Let's just try that. Yep, so it's working fine. So basically we've bound the session manager to each of those and we've updated the types so that we can just run something like is authenticated without a session manager, which means that we'll just then get like the result, which I think is a better experience because from the Nuxt module is going to be taking care of handling all of that. Wait.
Is Nitro the default, or is it?
It is the server for Nuxt.
Would people want to bring their own alternatives like Iron Session or I don't know, any other session manager, I suppose, or generally in the Nuxt world is Nitro the de facto that people would just turn to?
Nitro it's built in. So Nitro is the server. So if you're building a Nuxt app, it will be powered by Nitro. You could use something else on top of Nitro, but Nitro will still be there. So the session is using Iron Session here. I mean, you're right. Maybe you want to configure this yourself, in which case we can easily do that in the module. So you can basically replace this with your own implementation. But by default, I don't think people should need to configure it. As in, I think we can make this work. but I mean, make it extensible. So
I was just curious whether that's something that people would even want, or whether generally, if you're in on Nuxt, you're in on Nitro, and people don't really think about bringing other session managers in.
cool. Okay, I'm going to take a break and grab some fresh water and a cup of tea. So 5 minutes work for you, Dave, to resume?
Yep, sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay. Well, I'll be back in 5 minutes then. Okay. Okay, we're back. Is Dave back as well? Yes, Dave's back.
Hey,
Great.
I'm back.
Um, okay, so here we go. So we've basically been building out like what is a sample Nuxt app rather than a module. And now I think is the point where we need to start making this into a module that other people could install and use. So to start with, we're going to call this not my module, but we're going to call it nuxt-kinde, I think. Or we could promote it directly to nuxt.js kind, would probably be fine. And we can do this here. Okay, so just a few quick things. We'll make this nuxt modules kind. And my module will become nuxt.js kind. This is what you do if you're setting up a new project with a module template. You have to do a couple of search and replaces. And we'd say something like nuxt integration for kind. Authentication. Is that how kind would describe themselves? Yes. Okay. So we basically have got a little bit of boilerplate done. And we would probably also change it. Yeah, this is fine. So we might want to have some options, which are quite likely. And we already talked about some configuration that we might want to do. So let's pull some of these things out so that the code still works, and we can also add some features as we go. So we're going to have some server handlers. So we'll have basically a server callback handler. And I guess that's going to handle both log in and log out, because I think there are two callback URLs. We don't have to. We could do them separately. Dave, how do we log out? I basically guess instead of handling redirect, we would do something like handle logout or just log out. Yeah, I guess we just log.
There should be a logout. Yeah, logout method that you can use. Yeah, you found it.
And that's going to give me a URL. And what do I do with that URL? I just hit it.
So if you provide the logout URL in the screen and kind that you had earlier on, then post logout will chuck you back to that. If not, then we have like just a standard default logout screen that you go to, but it's probably nicer to provide your own, I would say.
So basically what we would do is have our own logout page. We'd get this URL, and then redirect to the URL, and then that URL will redirect back to our logout page. Right, so it's like it's exactly the same flow as the redirect to app, except it's just logging out.
Yes. I mean, most commonly people tend to use their homepage or website or something like that rather than a specific logout. But yeah.
Yeah. There we go. We do actually need to do this. Okay. And we'll actually just declare this as always present. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is, that's our okay, so we basically have our login callback, and we probably also want a logout. And those are going to do the two things that we just discussed. So the login callback is going to do this. The logout callback is going to do this. And something like this. And we're going to redirect to that URL. We're going to need to have this kind client. Now, is there this authorization code versus PKCE versus client credentials? Is that...
So the client credentials, you're going to want to, if we extend the module to also be able to make API calls to the kind admin, for the things that I was saying earlier. So if they wanted to be able to grab a list of users or spin up environments or add, they're using something like Vercel, it's common that they might want to add callback URLs on the fly because they have those dynamically generated URLs. So yeah, that's predominantly what that one is for. I don't know what that might be out of scope for this for today, but I suppose see how far we get. It might be a nice one to add. PKCE, typically you see it used more for browser flows or areas where there's nowhere that there's no secure storage and you can't therefore use a secret.
Yeah.
Although it is supported in most server runtimes as well. But I'd say you're probably fine with just the authorization code for this.
Okay. I guess I just want to make sure that we allow enough configuration options. So I guess this is probably the kind of thing the user might want to configure, or we provide an option for this in the config. So, but anyway, we have definitely got something we can get going with. So if this is our client, we're just going to pop this in our server utils client folder. We'll import use runtime config imports, and great. We have our callback. We might actually not expose the client itself. We'll do the same thing up here. Okay, so we have some callbacks. Okay, so basically what we want to do in the module is add. We have various different helper functions. So we're going to add. Come on. Add server handlers, and so we're going to add quite a lot of those. So we have basically. We're going to say callback login, and that's going to be handler server callback login. Do the same for logout. So those two endpoints are registered. We also want to, I think the utils doesn't need to be auto-registered. We'll just use relative imports for that. And then we will want to add the middleware to configure kind. So we'll do folder. This actually should be roots, I think. And we'll have middleware session middleware kind, I guess is fine. And we'll pop this in here. And this will need to run on every route. So we will do exactly the same with the server handler, but it will be a we'll mark it as a middleware. What is my TS config set up for? So we will basically register this as middleware. And we'll hit runtime server middleware kind. Okay. And I think we should be able to get rid of that. So we'll then just make sure this is all working. And then we'll import client. We'll import get session. Update session. Clear session. And okay. So that looks like it should run. We've added those 3 server handlers. Now we just have, let's see. Login and test. That's actually, oh yeah, of course. So login, we are, that's just the callback. Sorry, this is my mistake. These are not parallel at all. The login is handling a redirect to app, but we don't need an equivalent for the logout. So let me just make these API routes. So we have a callback, and this can just be a callback. And then we need an API route for login, and then another for logout. So this is API logout, API callback, and then probably an API login. So that login will end up doing this. Yeah, cool. So we have our callback, our login, and our logout. Fine. So that test can go. I think that was just an example. So we now don't need any of those API routes in our example plugin. We'll just need to update our module to make those correct. So we have API callback, we have API logout, we have API login. So this is very boring, I realize. We have login and...
I guess you'd have one for register as well.
Ooh, interesting, yeah. Okay, so that would probably be just exactly the same, would it? We have a register.
The main difference is it will pass through, except we'll be calling the register. And essentially, it just tells it which page to render when you get over to the client side. Just kind of gives it a hint to show the sign up page.
Cool. Okay, and we've got some stuff that we can store for when we are registering a new user.
Yes. So I was gonna get onto this one. I don't know whether you would want this. Commonly, this probably come from the client side. I suppose it depends on how you're structuring it, but it probably wants to be available from either. That it could be dynamic or ahead of time. So if you want, so one of the things we support is like multi-tenancy with organizations. So if you were building a B2B app and they had several businesses there, when someone's logging in, they might be logging into a specific organization. So therefore you can pass in the code, or which is effectively our ID for that organization.
Yeah.
They can have custom branding or whatever else for that org. And then in the registration flow, you can actually specify that you're creating a new organization altogether as part. So as the user registers, they also create an organization at that same point. That's what those arguments relate to.
Okay. And that really feels to me like we ought to be allowing the user to handle that. Like the login, I guess we have some login options as well. It seems the same options. It seems like we have got the register URL options associated. Is this exactly the same function as register?
The difference should be that the register one will send you to a page that asks for, I think it's first name, last name, like some additional information.
Yeah.
So, and takes you down a sign up flow.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, we either want, like, this isn't a complicated. This is not a complicated file. Like, a user could, like, we could easily let somebody like replace this with their own version of the login handler, presumably. So they can basically do whatever custom logic they want to do to determine what org code, etc. Okay, and callback we've got. Yeah, so that the callback and log out are pretty much unchangeable. You're not going to change that.
The only thing we see people want to customize on the callback side of things is if it's to remember, say, where a user was trying to log into, for example, and then kind of persist that state in some way, which usually is dynamic. I guess you don't always know that ahead of time. So you could have an environment variable. It's like by default, you go to the dashboard, but if they were trying to go to, I don't know, some other competitions page, then you forward them onto the competitions page.
Yeah.
That's not something that's baked into the TypeScript SDK. That's been left up to frameworks to implement and however they would handle that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have got our, well, I think it'll be easy to add some more customization along these lines, like to allow the user to override any one of these. So for example, we could easily just pass these handler paths as default options, and the user could, just provide their own. Hey, Aussie Boy and Winter, nice to have you join us. We're building out the kind integration for Nuxt at the moment with long-suffering Dave. So I think great. We've got a lot of stuff going, and middleware we can implement in a second, but I just want to make sure that stuff still works. So API login, API logout. That all seems fine. Let's just restart without HTTPS. And okay, so we should be able to log out. Oh. Okay, we should be able to log out like this. Cannot read properties of this is I've refactored this somewhat, haven't I? So this is not setting kind session manager, and it's not doing that probably because let's try that one more time. Interesting. Yeah, okay. So that's fine. We're logged out. There is no redirect URL, as I've not set one up. We would want to do this to API callback, and we'll do the same for, oh, I see, we need a path, and we don't really have one. So it might be something like just the home page, I guess. And
yeah, it's pretty common.
We would, could we specify that here? Oh no, there's no, I guess we don't specify it. And yes, Funky, I am excited about tomorrow. There's some fun things coming very, very soon in Nuxt. I wonder, that's interesting. So I wonder if I just, if it's going to pick it up now. Okay, so I am actually logged out, so this shouldn't work. I should be able to, oh, I still have these middleware in place. Let's get rid of them. They're just dummy. Okay, so log in, I should be able to log in. Invalid callback URL. Oh, I have to update it in my env. I think API callback. Let's try it again. Log in. Authflow working. Daniel. Aussie boy, thank you. That's really kind. Okay, so we're now logged in. Although there's not a lot to show us that we are. Let's see if I can make that work once more. We want to show our there we go. So we're logged in. And if we log out, then we are not redirected. Need to figure out how to do that, but we are definitely logged out. When we log in again, we are interesting. I wonder why it's now needing me to log in again each time. Oh, probably because I legitimately logged out. I think before I was logged in and never logged out, just we went through the flow again. But anyway, our login state is working fine. So, oh, maybe that's right. Maybe I have to set it in the session manager. That would make sense. That we basically have the session manager here, and we're setting logout redirect URL. Yes, you're quite right. So we would want to do something like this. And then that is going to hopefully redirect us. I might have had to restart. So. Yeah, that works fine. So now it's all working beautifully. This is good. Oops. Cool. Okay, so that's all working fine with our module now. So none of this is running out of the code here. We only have a couple of pages with some middleware. So I guess the next thing is to implement that middleware. So client-side middleware, and also implement like setting the state on the server in a way that we can access. Luquetic, I'm using Pale Knight operator, and you can see a link there. And yes, what's coming up at Nuxt? I will tell you that. There's some nice stuff coming up. Okay, so let's copy our middleware out. And basically, we need to do a couple of things. We'll have a plugin, and this plugin is going to need to handle setting auth state in a way that's accessible to client-side utilities and middleware. So we need, in order to do that, we're probably going to use state again. So, or inject something. So we would do something like this. We can return a kind injection here. And it can contain all of the things, like a singleton of stuff, so we can access it throughout the app. So in this case, we wanted to know whether we were logged in, which is a perfectly fair thing. So I'm just actually going to get rid of all of this, and we're instead going to display kind logged in, which doesn't exist right now, but it will in a second. So if we have our plugin, we're going to have our logged in state. And this we're going to need to set up via a state. So say const state is use state, and then basically if import meta server state.value equals well, we can make it a shallow ref. Shouldn't make a huge amount of difference, but okay, so we will want to have our logged in state. Cool. And we'll just directly return the state value like that for now. That should be typed, no? State value should be logged in Boolean. That should be typed now, yes. So now in our app, we should be able to access kind logged in, which is correctly typed for us as Boolean. And we should now see it's true. So now that's globally accessible throughout your app with this $kind helper. And there might be a couple of other things that we want to have. Okay, does this seem like we're going in the right direction, people? So we now can use this in our middleware. So for this, we would want to say, we're going to pull these in from imports. And we're just going to directly return logged in like this. This is if you're logged in. Yeah, makes sense. And then we're going to do the opposite here. Okay, so I think we've just implemented our middleware, but we'll now need to add it. So we'd say add nuxt, add root middleware, and we're going to pull in. What are our paths? Path and name. So we have, what was it? Auth logged in. And the path is this, but changed. We'll do the same for our logged out. Restart it, and hopefully now we have our login and logout page which refer to this middleware which we've now created. And so now we're logged in, so I shouldn't be able to access the login page, but the logout is fine. I can log out, and now I shouldn't be able to access the logout page, only the login. So that's fine. The middleware is working for us, and I think that should also be true if I just directly try to go to the logout page. It's going to give me an error. It's not accessible. And actually, I should make it better. So if we're not logged in, then I should return abort navigation, which will give me a better error message. And I think I can implement the same here. Except the other way around. Okay. So now if I directly access log in, log out, it should say, let's restart that. That's not an issue with this module though. That's more of a how this is being, this abort navigation is being rendered. So I probably would want to render it on a like a 403 or something like that. So it'd do something like if import meta server interesting. Then I would want to return create error maybe. Status code 403. Yeah, that would be fine. And I could give a message, so something like that. That's fine. And then I guess on client side, it's just going to prevent me going to it. And then we could do the same thing for logged out. Oh, that should be 401 though, I guess. And this, interesting. This should also be a 401 if you need to be logged out to access a page. You're not authenticated. What is there a better status code for that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. Well, okay, I think we've got it then. Okay, so we have some middleware now, which you can use in your app, and you'll get type safety for that. So those will be like selectable for the user. And so now our demo project is literally just a couple of pages without any code here. Oh, the runtime config, we have to move that out. So basically, this is going to be definable by the user, so they can override it, but we'll set the defaults. So it would say nuxt options runtime config. Kind is going to be defu, so we're going to respect the existing runtime config, and this should be the new one. Cool. And we'll import this and add it as a dependency, I guess. So we now have, oh, we also have to set up the stub mode here. I mean the prepare mode, so. Cool. And then I think we also want a, do I need to set this up? It might just work. Sean, it's not an extra dep. Defu is used everywhere in Nuxt. So I know it feels like that, but it's literally, it's already installed. It's just a matter of saying explicitly that we're going to use it. Okay, so this should work. We should be able to run our playground. And we're registering lots of stuff. What kind of options should we set? I already talked just very briefly about maybe allowing people to override the these auth logged in. Should the middleware be called kind login? do we think? How much do we want kind to be still present, or are we just going to call this auth?
I'm not precious about it. I mean, yeah, I think auth's probably clearer.
It feels like everything here makes sense for it to be auth. In that case, we should probably also do it in the plugin and say this is going to provide auth. Oh, and we need to import these. Okay. And then we'll access that in our example using auth logged in. Great. I love it when what's going on? So I should be able to go to log in, but it's not working. Oh, because I'm accessing kind. Cool. Try that once more. Okay, I think this is a decent basic implementation that we can get up and let people play with and improve.
Awesome.
It's working, and we have, sometimes these things don't work when we actually get going, but we can set some options. So just to allow, we could say we have some options. So enable, or just say middleware, and we could say if options middleware, then we're going to add these handlers. Maybe the user prefers to do it themselves. And then we could also support, say, overriding these endpoints. Callback, login, and logout. Options, say, let's say handlers, and we will have callback, login, and logout. And we will have to specify that in our default options here. So we provide those by default, and we can specify them at this point. Okay, so those will be well, we might actually
be able to define their own groups if they wanted to store the files elsewhere, or would it be enough to say it's always found at API callback, or would people maybe want API auth callback? Would that be customizable? Or?
It makes sense that it would be customizable, doesn't it? But I'm wondering if we could just, to start with, hard code it and see whether people come back with So that means we don't need to write it down. Cool. So we've given people some options. These will be auto-inferred in their Nuxt config. So when they type kind, they'll get type support for all of these options for us. Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, I think we've got it. We don't have a README yet, but I think we can basically just say we'll call it my module anywhere. Okay, nuxt-kinde. Kind integration for nuxt. We'll copy a link to kind. And nuxt. Cool. I guess we probably can't have a live demo because you probably can't redirect to a stack blitz.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, but you need to provide it. I'm thinking about ways to get around it, but haven't come up with one yet.
Okay, let's just drop that for the moment. And now it is relatively accurate. Add module functionality. Oops, not to do. Cool. Just check we don't have anything new to install. Oh, there's something we're doing some logging of session manager, I strongly suspect. Let's see. Yeah, we're still logging that and this. And our memory session needs to be improved. That's fine. We'll just say to do improve memory session. And let's just very quickly run prettier. Sure. Are you wanting me to be louder, or are you wanting Dave to be louder, or both? Ugh.
So we still need to make the client exportable, right? We need to expose that. We did some hard coding, didn't we, inside the node module to expose the client?
I know. I just grabbed the thing that it resolved to. So basically, so we're fine at the moment. So I'm using AC client, which I think is exposed, but the bit that did the type inference, that is not.
I see. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Let's push that up there, and I'm even going to publish it because why not? I strongly suspect we will want to have more changes, but as in
That's awesome stuff.
from now on we can let the we can improve things as we go. There is more to do, but we do have access to this, and that. We still need to make it extensible, and roles, permissions, and feature flags and things. That's maybe something to improve, but I guess we can track that on GitHub as well. And all. Cool. Okay, great stuff. Thank you so much for joining me, Dave. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. It's been great.
Cheers. And yeah, hope to catch up with you another time. I'm going to stick on. I'm going to do some Nuxt stuff, and stay around. So nobody go. But I will. I think that's it for a kind module today. But,
it's 1 a.m. so I think I'm going to jump. Cheers.
I'm so sorry, so late. Good night. See you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye. Ah, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. Okay, everyone's still with me. Hopefully that will be useful for folk, any folk who are using Kind. And I'll just make that. I'll just publish that so anyone can see it. Cool. Excellent. And I'll just put that here. Great stuff. Okay, so I think there's some other fun things to do in terms of Nuxt 3.8 and more. So, what is everyone interested in? Please let me know. Are there bugs that you would like fixed? Are there features that you're interested in? Let me know, because now is a good time. Miss Doria, hello. Hello. Issue bankruptcy. Yes, I do. Now Nuxt 2 is not reaching end of life till the end of June now, next year. But certainly, inside type safe body params. Okay, this is the inside scoop. The inside scoop is that I have implemented this quite far using this PR here. So this PR does it. It's type safe. But the problem with it at the moment is that it's not easily extensible by Nuxt or other frameworks. So in other words, it works fine within Nitro, but it isn't easily usable within use fetch, for example. So it would work fine for $ fetch, but not use fetch. And so what we need to be able to do is implement this signature in a way that that does all of the things that this PR does, except it's easily usable by Nuxt or by anyone else. That's the reason that this is deferred, and I just need to pick it up. Do I think that client components in Nuxt line will be merged in 3.8? That is what I want to achieve. However, I tried it out on my own website, and there's currently an issue that we need to resolve, and that is that we dramatically increase the amount of JavaScript that is being loaded. So my website currently uses server components, and basically all of these are server components. But with this particular PR, it increases the scripts that are downloaded to 36 from 7. So if you're looking at this is just enabling the server component module. So interestingly, there we go. If I refresh it, I actually don't get that. There's a bug there, which we can have a look at. But the issue here is that we are loading a lot of JavaScript, including JavaScript for components that are within the server components. And I suspect that it's mostly just preloading, so I don't think it's actually running the code, but it's still a download that I think we should get rid of before we merge the interactive client components. By the way, so if we go to this site, sort of the one without the server components, just look at the JavaScript. It's just these one per page. So there's no individual components being loaded. But with the new server component interactivity, like there's lots and lots of code being downloaded, and that's not a regression that we want to implement, want to do. Like it takes us up to. Interestingly, it does make a huge difference in terms of when it loads, how quickly the page loads, and it does make a huge difference in terms of resources. So that's 396 to 645. I guess it doubles it, but that's anyway that's not the level of change we want to have. And so, I need to look into it and figure out what's causing that and what we can do to fix it. But that is on my list. So all of the time I'm streaming, I'm not taking a look at it, but that is something I want to resolve before we get 3.8, ideally. So okay, so there are a couple of things that we can do. Stream, what's happening? Here's a little to-do list for me today, which I was not planning on sharing, but anyway, we certainly can. So here's some of the things that I'm planning to do. I need to finish my slides for Nuxt Nation. I probably can't do that live on air. But here are some others. We can define defaults for Nuxt links. We can add Nuxt image to built-in components documentation. And extract test utils to a separate repo. We're going to pull out the test utils package that's currently in nuxt. Here in packages test utils. We're going to pull this out into the Nuxt test utils repo that already exists. And this repo exists for, I've already done some work. I've moved it to 0.x. We have a 1.x tree, interesting. But the 0.x is that correct? Yeah. But basically what we want to have as our new main test utils here. And it makes sense to be versioned independently because it will release more frequently than Nuxt will itself. We also want to be able to move things like nuxt-vtest into it so it's in one place and we're not having to keep track of these things separately. So that's something I've started locally. The problems with vtest, I would happily dive into that a little bit today. It's definitely something that I want to fix. But no, in and of itself, that would not make a difference. What we need to do is that there's some breaking changes in vtest that are probably for the good thing. Are probably taking us in the right direction, but they still have some issues in terms of nuxt-vtest. You can read this. There's a fairly long conversation about it and explaining a little bit about what's going on. I think we need a feature in vtest that's going to make it possible to do what we need, which is basically we need to be able to run our setup code outside of within the vt transform. At the moment, the breaking change was that the setup code runs out like in pure node, but a lot of what we do in nuxt-vtest has to run outside of pure node. Yes, I can increase the microphone volume, but it's unclear to me why there's a. Let me just have a quick check. Okay, I'm going to give it a bit of gain. Okay, am I too loud? Am I a good volume? You can speak to me and I will increase or decrease. I can make myself louder. How about that? Okay. Okay, that's good. I won't make it any, I won't change it. Okay, so we've got our nuxt vtest. We've got vtest. Let's see what we've merged in recently here. So we need to support. Doesn't look like it's implemented yet. So this is probably going to be very, it won't be a hugely satisfying investigation, but we can have a look. So if we jump out into nuxt vtest and let's merge our changes in our own branch. Okay, so this is not going to make a difference. Right, we need to. Yeah. Okay, so what we do at the moment when we set up the environment is we have a we do stuff like import app entry, which is here, and that's not going to work in pure Node, obviously. I think almost everything else will work fine. But we basically somehow need to be able to run this before the test. And let's see, what does vtest give us? I tried SST. Well, honestly, I'm waiting for SST integration for Nuxt, and I'm not just doing that out of nothing. Like, they are building it. Like, right, they promise they're building it for us. Well, not for us, but for people who will use it. So it should be like, it should be something that's coming quite soon. Dax is, he's not. They should contact me. They should tell me if there are problems. I can help them. But I very much hope it's coming soon. Yeah, they should reach out to me. If you know anyone at SSD, tell me. So this is what I said. There's also, I think there is already a solution, maybe. Someone has unofficially, but check it out. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want some kind of setup files. Yeah. Let's see if we can make this work with either of these. I think basically if I remove that, then we should, okay, so without this, if I run test, we run what, build stub, dev prepare. and test. And we get this, cannot find module app entry. Okay, if I copy that out, I think everything else should work. But the test will not pass because, okay, so that is what I would expect. But if I then create, let's say I create a runtime sort of setup, we'll just call it entry. And basically we say we do before all try this, and we put that, and then we in our config we need to specify setup files. Let's actually just directly do it in our test suite. So if we are running, I guess we probably do need to do it locally, but let's just try it here. So interesting. Okay, let's just say if okay. This is interesting. Entry is not a function. I think this is why, but this should, the setup should already have run by this point, so this doesn't seem right to me. Is it the... Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so we basically, we should be setting import meta.client somewhere. Or maybe we just run. Yeah. Well, that's odd. I've just realized I really don't need that on anymore now that Dave is not talking to me in my ear. So, headphones coming off. Okay, so now in Nuxt we do this. So we have import meta.client and we actually replace it here in our Vite config. So we have a define step, and we actually do a little bit more. So we do this. We actually use the a replace plugin to ensure that we are replacing everything that is import meta. So it feels to me like this means that this is not now running in the configuration context that I wanted it to be running in, which is a bit of a strange situation. What is our next version? 3.74. Okay, when are the setup files running? So what I wonder is this somehow running before? No, it's not about when. The point is that our configuration that we should be pulling in, which pulls in the nuxt config, that should have some plugins. Right. Problem is I'm going to get sucked into this. I'm just going to mark this. I'm just going to push first. I'm going to commit this as whip. I'm going to switch to main, and I need to publish the current version of the package, which has a couple of new features. And I also want to change how we're doing the configuration, because we really should be using defu to do this. So it's sort of, we're deeply changing these things with lots of spread operations, and it feels to me like defu is going to be a better solution for us in most cases. But that's neither here nor there. The point is we have some stuff. I think we've got some stuff that we need to release. Let's see. No, I think not. It's just dependency upgrades, which is fine. We do have an interesting PR to add some mocks, which should be nice. This actually looks good to me. Okay. Right, let me return to my to-do list. Okay, so what we want to do is, I think the next thing to do is define defaults for nuxt links and data fetching, which is a very, very big deal in terms of a very useful PR that I think we can get merged sooner rather than later. So basically at the moment we have in nuxt link, we have a sort of big picture, like a huge component, and the define nuxt link wrapper, and that's how we export what nuxt link is. Now, define nuxt link handles a lot of options. So it handles options. For example, we have the trailing slash behavior here. Now, in fact, the default behavior is simply to return. No, it does nothing. So this is only relevant if the user is doing things. But it actually pulls in some things into our dependency tree. So I think we can remove that very, very easily without actually even changing anything in terms of nuxt. So we will say this is called define nuxt link, and then we have an internal function, function define nuxt link, where we this, and basically what we do is we just directly return the component here. So it's going to pull it in from that point, like this. And so this is obviously going to fail because we're missing a couple of things. So we need a component name, and we also need like check prop conflicts and resolve trailing slash behavior. And that's it. Okay. So this can simply be put in here. Like this. And then the only thing that we're missing here is this resolve trailing slash behavior. So I think what we can do is actually just propose this as an option. And what does it do? It basically returns a root location. Interface. Cool. So we can basically specify that we are going to accept that as a possible option. And then we will, actually we'll just accept it as a separate thing. So we should now be able to handle, actually we should specify that it, we can have a default value. So it should accept we're just returning 2, right? So we're not even using, so we're just, yeah. So basically our default behavior should be we're accepting 2 and we're returning 2. So should just be able to do this. Okay, so now we should be able to use this lighter nuxt link to export our own So what we would do is return that. And then here we can just use this basic define nuxt link. Okay. So I think by itself, that should save us a few kilobytes in the basic nuxt build. Let's see if we can replicate that. vtest run bundle u. It might not make a difference, actually. What's the matter? Cool. Ooh, how is that possible? Okay, why is that doing this? Let's just very quickly revert my changes. So and check to confirm that they've actually been caused by that. They have. Okay, so that change actually ends up increasing. Oops, not that. Okay, why? Why have I done that? So somehow this change adds 5 kilobytes to the server and 4 to the client, but we shouldn't be hitting this define nuxt link at all. So it should just be smaller. Oh, I think it's probably the fact that we omitted to add this no side effects to this one. Let's try that now. And so it probably won't make any difference to the size of the bundle test, but it probably will make a difference to the size of an actual project. Let's see. So if I had a minimal app with a nuxt link, then that's going to be yeah, 4 kilobytes. Yeah, that's exactly what we're expecting. Let's just stash this. Go back to main and run the same test with the current behavior, and I would expect it to be a little bit bigger. So let's see. Okay, only a little bit actually. I'm not sure it's worth doing in that case because, yeah, I'm not sure it's worth doing. Okay. Oh well, it's worth checking that. The second thing, I guess, is default values like trailing slashes. So we have our define nuxt link, and we have a component name, and we also have the possibility of passing other options in here. And these are all useful, I think, for the purpose of configuring your app. So we have our app config, and this interface, let's see, I think we can do something like this. Okay, so we have our app config, and we actually want to do define nuxt link, and we'll do but we can't call it in this context. I think we might need to use nuxt-config for now. So right, so we have a nuxt-config.mjs. Oh right, see you, Punky. We have a nuxt-config.mjs file, which is here. And we can pass things from our nuxt-config through to our app. So we're going to pass const nuxt link defaults, and we can pass that through. So then we can import it here. So we would say something like this. And we'll import this in here. So from build nuxt-config.js. And then we'll pull that in down here. Cool. So those are our nuxt link defaults. We're now defining the component in that way. And this is a virtual file. Cool. So that, I think, at the moment should be fine. We can also... Hey, see you later. We can also add something here. Let's see, what would we do? We can either do it in experimental or we could do it in router, because we already do have this section of the configuration. So we could, what would we do? I think app config makes sense. So I think we could do it wondering if there's a way we can actually do this a little bit better. Rather than making it there, could we actually... I think not. Hello. Nice to see you. Okay. Okay, I think we'll use nuxt-config for the moment, and we'll do it in experimental just because it gives us the opportunity to move it somewhere else. These options will likely be moved elsewhere, such as into app-config or in a dedicated right. And what we'll do is we'll have something like sort of defaults, and we'll have nuxt link. We'll have some defaults, and they will basically be component name. What did we say? And this type should be what is it? Nuxt link. It needs to have some options, nuxt link options, which are accessible from app components nuxt link. Okay, so let's stub that and make sure that it is working. So in a nuxt-config file, we should be able to use experimental, defaults, nuxt link. Oh. And that should have, excellent, all of those are there. Cool. Okay, so we have the defaults. So it just remains, I think, to pass them through. So what we would do is stringify nuxt options experimental defaults nuxt link. Cool. So that should make it possible to do something like set trailing/true append rather. And then check it out in our app.view, and we should be able to do nuxt link to about, and check the playground. We should see, no, it's not. Oh, it is, it is. It has a trailing slash. Cool, so I think that's working. So that means we have nuxt link defaults. Cool. we need to specify this. So this allows specifying the default options for core nuxt components and composables. Okay, great. Let's add a very, very quick test for this. And we can do that, well, okay. Cool. So that's that. I think we can do the same for data fetching as well. So we have some options here which I think we could allow specifying. A lot of them we can't. So I think, for example, actually a lot of these async data ones don't make sense. But the only one that makes sense to me is deep. So we would do the same here, I think. Async data, deep is false. Oh, it's true rather. And we could have fetch and fetch has a lot more options. So because it inherits all of the options from the actual fetch utility as well. So as well as async data. So let's see, what could we specify? These computed fetch options allow us to specify base URL body, a lot of things here. Timeout retry status code. Yes, fetch would inherit from use async data. I am going to take a moment and refill my cup of tea. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. Seem reasonable? And I will see you all, hopefully, if you're still around, in 5 minutes' time. Okay, I'm back. By the way, the cups of tea are essential because it is really cold. This is the only way I'm staying warm. So let's see, what can we do? Right, specify. I think actually I might make this as a separate PR because it feels to me like it is. I'm going to try something. Let's just. Okay. Oops. I'm going to try graphite. So basically I'm testing this out a little bit. No, it's actually normal black tea. I say normal. It is not. It's just black tea. So that's cool. Don't really know what this means. Okay. Undo this. Go to main. Graphite. Okay. Yeah. The new branch is going to be nuxt-link defaults. Cool. And I guess I can now check it out. Now do that. I'm a little confused. Okay, graphite interactive sidebar. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing. Right, okay, let's submit it. Cool, that's happened. Now I can specify, okay, what is this? It is basically a enhancement. This PR allows configuring nuxt-link defaults such as trailing / behavior and default classes prefetch behavior. All of these are serializable and initially can be set in experimental defaults nuxt-link, but we will likely want to move to app config or app directory later on. And I think we can link some things. So let's see, we have nuxt-link. I'll just trailing /. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, I think that seems fine in terms of the summary. We'll want to edit the I would like Lucy as a reviewer. And we'll need to add this to the external here. Esteban, good to see you. Cool. Okay, so that's updated. So hopefully that should now be a reasonable PR. I'm adding the ability to have default behavior for nuxt-link. And, well, nuxt-link to start with. So at the moment, in order to have custom trailing / behavior, you have to create your own version of nuxt-link, which you then would use like my nuxt-link. But this allows you to make a change that affects every nuxt-link in your application. So hopefully it would be useful. And I'll also ask for Sebastian to review it. He's also doing stuff at the moment. And I think we can publish it. Cool. Oh, there's some. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, that's a test issue. So we currently have a nuxt-link test, so we need to specify we need somehow to mock this. So try this instead. We need nuxt-config and export default that's nuxt link defaults nuxt component name is nuxt link. Let's try that. I do think generalizing the feature would be useful. What do you mean by it? What are you thinking about? What are the sort of things that are in your mind? It has like a little dashboard as well, where you can sort of see PRs that are awaiting review, drafts, etc. It's quite an interesting tool. Okay. So this is the sort of configuring Nuxt link. So then the question is, would it also be useful to do some data fetching? And I think the main one is deep. So we would do async data, and we say deep is Boolean. Oh, deep is true, I guess is our default. And I guess fetch, we would have a similar option. I do use Volta, but I'm just trying out. But Volta is not used for. I don't use it to review PRs. I use it for manage notifications and issues. But I have it open actually, even as we speak. Okay. So, so we could set async data and fetch separately, I guess makes sense. And what else would we want to do? So we were looking at some of the fetch options that are available to us. So we could specify, which ones of these make sense to specify in a global way? I guess interceptors, like retry, timeout, but actually I'm not sure these really make sense to be globally specified. As in, isn't it more about the specific fetch request? Like, so, Well, we could start out with deep, couldn't we? And say, what would we say? Yeah, I guess that would be it, right? And so then we would have our templates, and we would say this. We would have async data defaults. We would have fetch defaults, and we would have async data, and we would have fetch. Maybe actually it would be better to specify use async data and use fetch, so that it's clear that these are the composables. Like it would be very clear, I think, about nuxt-link or async data, but fetch particularly might not be clear, because fetch could also be the $fetch composable, whereas this way I think it's a little bit clearer. Fetch defaults and async data defaults. And then what we do in here is, just as in nuxt-link, we pull in the defaults like this. And we do the same in fetch. And we would pull in fetch defaults, and we would pull in async data defaults. And actually, I really think probably the deep doesn't make sense to specify in both places, but so for now we could just have use async data. Okay, so we'll just, I think I'll move that out at the moment. We'll just say async data defaults. And basically what we will have is deep. So we would say, I think we could say this. So options deep. Okay, so that gives us our basic option. And then I think we could do this maybe. So I wonder, use fetch timeout retry. Okay, let's give it a try. So use fetch timeout. The thing is, these are not set, like they're not defaults that we actually set. But we could pop them in here. So we could do basically type timeout retry, and we've got them here. Number or false. Or in fact, we could import them directly from ofetch. Let's try that. Pick. Okay, let's see how that comes through in our playground. So we should be able to do experimental defaults use fetch, and we can say retry delay and timeout. So that should then be able to come in here as fetch defaults, fetch options. This. Well, yeah, I think this makes sense. I can't imagine someone would want to set deep just for use fetch. It will inherit the deep, but it doesn't allow you to configure deep specifically for use fetch. Retry status code. Okay, let's have a look. So we have body, ignore response, error. That could be a thing. Timeout, retry delay, retry status codes, plural. And actually, conceivably, you would actually want to register handlers on this, like the on response. Okay, so let's say what we have here at this point is fetch defaults, async data defaults. Cool, seems fine. Let's try graphite then. So if we basically say these changes, so in other words, not nuxt-config, but these changes should go into a new branch, and we'll call it fetch defaults, data defaults. Exactly, that's why I'm thinking about something that is fully runtime, so we can actually have a handler that is global. Yeah, that's precisely why I'm thinking of that. Okay, so we have a new branch, data defaults, and we would do something like, wait. What's going on? very confused by graphite. Okay, why are we still loading? What's that? What does that mean? Oh, I see. Has it committed it? It somehow has. Let's undo that, maybe? Okay, so we're going to say, yeah, modify the current branch. I'm so confused. Okay, what has that done? Nothing. Nothing? Is it still doing things? Okay, so we're going to... Where can I set a message? I want to set a message for this. So this needs to have a... why is this so complicated? Yeah, I want it as a tree anyway. And also this should probably be smaller. Ugh. What is this? Okay, come on. I want this to be... Okay, modify the current branch. Or do I just commit it directly? Allow customizing defaults for use fetch and use async data. Okay, let's try that. Maybe that will work. So get rid of that. I feel this is much slower than my previous workflow, but anyway, it's doing stuff. Ugh. Come on. Why is this so complicated? Okay. Graphite sidebar. Okay, submit. My arc, it's nice and minimal. I can just see the page that I'm looking at. Works well for me. I like being able to switch between personal and work like that. Which was one of the main things that I loved about Firefox. I do love Firefox also. But I have a high value on minimalism. I really like minimalism. Okay, this is crazy. Let's just run this. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so what we can do here is say enhancement. Okay, this allows us to set default options for use async data and use fetch, including deep false for async for data composables. This will enable That's probably what it was doing before anyway, that it was waiting for the response to this, and that's probably why this didn't complete. So we now have, hopefully, another PR that's been opened. And I would like Puya's verdict on this, because it might potentially be... I can see that there might be an issue here, and I think you might be able to spot it. Cool. Cool. So I think we can mark this as ready for review. So where's my graphite? Cool. Okay, what is next? Is there something else we can usefully do? Or we could just... I think I should probably give the stream an end. It's been a pleasure to hang out today. Thank you for joining me. And we'll join and do some more stuff later. Next 2 days of Nuxt Nation. Definitely tune in. We're going to be releasing some stuff. It's going to be fun. Thank you all. And yeah. Oh, I always forget this. Let me see if I can find anyone else that we want to join. Don't see anyone I recognize who's streaming at the moment, so we might have to raid somebody some other time. Anyway, have a great day, everybody, and see you later.